Good morning, everybody. We're just going to pause here while we wait for all of our attendees to join us this morning. We'll just give it a few seconds and then we'll begin. Okay, good morning and welcome to today's webinar, Orientation to Canadian eFest, the 2022 Vancouver Formula E Prix. I'd like to begin today's session by acknowledging that the land on which we gather to live, work, and play, and to which we welcome our visitors, is the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. My name is Lucas Pavan, Destination Vancouver team member and manager membership, and on behalf of my DVAN colleagues, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. This webinar is part of an ongoing series of complimentary programming that we are providing you in support of our 2021 business sprint and its three focus areas of rebuilding demand, destination stewardship and advocacy, and organizational resilience. You can find a copy of our 2021 business sprint online at the website link on your screen. As announced at our annual general meeting in June, we are now Destination Vancouver with a renewed purpose to transform communities and visitors through the power of travel, and with a mandate to support Vancouver's tourism industry in developing their experiences and promoting Vancouver in target Canadian, US, and international markets. We invite you to learn more about our new expanded mandate at the link on your screen. I'd now like to move into the main content of today's webinar, and to do that, I'm going to pass proceedings over to my colleague, Michael Drake, Destination Vancouver team member and Director of Sales, Meetings and Conventions, US and International, to provide context to the content you're about to hear and introduce our guest panelists.
Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Thanks for making the time to come here about this fantastic new opportunity. And first, I want to thank Anne and the OSS group for bringing this new opportunity to Vancouver. I know many other destinations across Canada were courting them and asking them to come to their cities. As we know, we have a great destination for them. It aligns with our destination sustainability goals and matches up with our strong clean tech sector. But through sporting events, I did want to mention our partnership. Michelle Collins isn't here at the moment, but we do have a strong relationship with Sport Hosting Vancouver. Just to remind you, Sport Hosting Vancouver is a partnership with Destination Vancouver, the VHDA, the City of Vancouver, and our key sporting venues. They're an integral part of bringing events to Vancouver. Now this morning, we're going to hear from our friends over at the OSS group, and you can expect to hear about, what is Formula E? How is this different from the Indy? Who is your OSS group and the FIA group? Give us an idea of the agenda, the demographics of who's coming, opportunities for accommodation, restaurants, volunteers, legacy, a real review of everything. So no further ado, I now want to thank and pass this over to Anne from the OSS group, who is now going to give you an overview of what's going on and what we can expect. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Michael, for the introduction. By the way, I can see Michelle Collins. Hi, Michelle. Well, listen, thank you, everybody from Destination Vancouver, all the members. Thank you for having us today. We're honored to be here. It'll be our pleasure to answer all your questions at the end. First of all, let me tell you who we are and what we do. We are the OSS group. We're the promoter, a private promoter who are going to put on the Vancouver E-Prix, the Canadian eFest, because it's not just a race. It's a 3-day event that Matthew will tell you all about in a few minutes. My background is IndyCar. Actually, I've worked in a lot of other racing series. I've done some work in Formula One. I also worked in Formula E, but mostly IndyCar. So IndyCar, the Molson Indy came to Vancouver, as you know, for many years. And I was part of that gang that showed up at Vancouver, and all the Americans were so excited to be in Vancouver because it is probably one of Canada's most beautiful cities. They loved coming there. Our track is going to be slightly different. Philip will tell you about that. It'll be shorter. But let me tell you the difference between the Molson Indy and Formula E. First of all, Formula E stands for electric. So electric cars hardly make any noise. It's sort of a whistling noise. And I'm told it's even quieter than the SkyTrain. And there's no pollution, which is where we all need to head towards. We need to move the population over to electric mobility. And that's the reason why we're doing this. All three of us have backgrounds in racing for many, many years. Matthew here was the president and CEO of a Lotus Formula One team. Philip, our operations guy, worked with Formula One Grand Prix in Montreal for 7 years. He also designed some tracks for Formula E once they discovered how good he was at that. So we all have been working in racing for a long time, but we chose Formula E because it's done for the right reason. It's done to accelerate the change towards sustainability, towards electric mobility, and that's why we're here. So as I said, Molson Indy, the Indy cars were great, but they were noisy, and I know that that was a problem with the residents. I think we're as fast as the Indy cars. We certainly have a lot more torque, the Formula E cars. And I'm telling you, Formula E is going to put on quite a show when we come to Vancouver. Their races are exciting. There's a lot of passing opportunities. Philip designed a great track that will allow passing. So we're going to put on a good show. Without any further delay, let me introduce you to our president and CEO of OSS Group, Matthew Carter.
Okay, so good to speak to you all. So I'll just give a very quick overview of our event, and then I'll pass over to Phil to talk a little bit more about the ins and outs and the details. So as Anne rightly said, the three of us have got a long and varied history within motorsport, and we were approached by Formula E to assess the possibility of bringing Formula E back to Canada, because as I'm sure some of you know, there was an event back in 2017 in Montreal. So we looked at the different cities, and Vancouver, quite honestly, just sprang off the page as being the obvious choice for us to bring the race back to. And I don't need to explain to you guys the reasoning behind that, but you know, the number of electric cars and the push to make Vancouver the greenest city all ticks all the boxes that we needed to tick. So we looked at bringing the event back to Vancouver. We then needed to find a location for it. One of the reasons that we chose Falls Creek was not just because it's where the Molson Indy was, it's because it's the area that, as far as we're concerned, and again, Philip will go into a bit more detail on this, as far as we were concerned, it was the area in Vancouver that had the least impact on the residents and meant that we had to close the least number of streets in order to put on our event. So I think we looked at around about 20 or 30 different sites, and every single time we kept being drawn back to Falls Creek. So the idea is that the race itself will take place in Falls Creek. And again, Phil will go around and show you the track in a short while. But the event will take place on the Saturday, as all Formula E races do. So Formula E races take place over the course of one day. And that's done so that when they're done downtown in cities such as New York and Rome and London and Paris, there's as limited impact on the residents as possible. It's not quite the case for us, but it's still the same format for the weekend. So the Formula E race takes place on the Saturday. So there's qualifying, practice and the race on the Saturday. What we're going to do that makes our event slightly different from other Formula E events is we're adding two other events to the whole, what we're calling the E-Festival. So on the Thursday and the Friday of the race weekend, we're going to have a creative business conference. Now that business conference will be, okay, so Phil's now showing, sorry, Phil's in charge of the screen there. So this is the overview of the site here. So the blue outline there obviously is the racetrack itself. And you can see there, it starts on Pacific. The start finish line is kind of just to the right, exactly where Phil's holding his cursor now. So it's just underneath where Rogers Arena is. So that'll be the start finish line. And then the cars will race down towards BC Place and then sort of loop back on themselves, come across the area there where Cirque du Soleil usually is, and then across a lot of the Concord areas, through some of the parklands there, and then cuts down past Science World, does a hairpin right outside the McDonald's, and then comes back up Quebec Street, and then we do a little bit of a chicane there, and then come back to the start-finish straight. So that's the track itself. The purple area, or the pinky purple area that's right in the middle of the track there, that's going to be where the business conference will be. So the business conference will be a creative business conference with the theme of sustainability, climate change, and electrification of mobility. And that business conference will take place Thursday and Friday morning. And as I say, it's in that area there that's sort of highlighted in a pinky purple color. The idea being that on Friday afternoon, as the business conference is sort of winding down, that the track then becomes hot, or the track becomes open, if you like. So at that time, on a normal Formula E weekend, then they'll be testing the camera angles, they'll be just testing the timing loops, and generally just making sure that the track is safe and fit for purpose for racing. What we're going to do, again, which is slightly different to other races, is we're going to take the opportunity to use that time to put some other activities on the racetrack itself. So we're going to hold a celebrity race, which is going to take place on that Friday afternoon. We're then going to allow some of the residents or people that are in attendance to walk, maybe cycle, run, jog, skateboard, do whatever they want to do around the track. And we believe that that's going to give them a real sort of different perspective of what a racetrack is like. And it's very, very rare. Even myself, who worked in Formula One for many years, it's very rare that you get to actually see what the drivers see from the racetrack. So we think that's going to be quite a unique thing that we're going to be able to offer. We'll also offer some ex-racing drivers will be there with electric cars doing what they refer to in racing terms as hot laps. So they'll be inviting people to come and sit in the passenger seat, and then quite frankly, they'll be trying to scare the living hell out of them as much as they can. So that'll all be going on the Friday afternoon. Then Friday evening, we're going to have a musical concert. So the idea being that there's 2 concerts over the weekend. The Friday evening concert will be for a slightly older demographic in terms of, in our mind's eye, they're the people that have attended the business conference during the day, and they'll sort of have migrated across to interact a little bit with what's going on with the Formula E cars, and then maybe go on to the concert afterwards. So an international artist of a slightly older demographic. The kind of people that we've spoken to so far are the likes of Michael Bublé or John Legend or Stevie Wonder, Lionel Richie, someone of that sort of caliber, a little bit of the older demographic. We haven't actually signed any artists yet, but we are, should we say, a long way down the line towards signing them, and we'll be able to announce those when we launch the event. So that's Friday. And then Saturday is all about Formula E. So currently there are no support races that go along with Formula E, but we're hoping that by the time this event comes around, there'll be a support race, and then there'll be the Formula E race itself. Also during the day on Saturday, there'll be lots of other activations going on throughout the site. So the whole area sort of to the north of Science World there will be one open sort of fan zone area, if you like, where people will be able to obviously buy merchandise, buy food and beverages, but there'll also be different exhibits that they can interact with. There'll be some exhibits that will demonstrate how electrification of mobility is advancing. There'll be simulators there so that people can go and set a lap time and compare that to a racing driver, etc., etc. At the same time, we're in the process of negotiating with Science World, and because Science World is incorporated within the outskirts of our track, the idea would be that we will open Science World up so that people that gain access into the site itself also get access into Science World. So if they're there with their family and they want to go and spend half an hour away from the on-track activities, they can go into Science World and they can interact and they can go and look at the exhibits in and around Science World. So that's all of the events for Saturday. The podium will take place probably just about where Cirque du Soleil is. So I don't know if Phil can move his cursor, or if you can see a very small sort of black thing, that is actually the podium. So when the race finishes, we open the turnstiles or the gates, and we refer to it as flooding the track. So we will allow the spectators and the fans to come onto the track and to congregate around the front of the podium there, where there'll be the podium celebrations, the spraying of the champagne and alike. As soon as that's all finished, that should be finished and rounded up by about 6:30. We'll then have our final concert to round off the whole weekend. And that will be a slightly younger demographic to aim for the slightly younger demographic that goes to the Formula E events. So again, we've talked to the likes of a Justin Bieber or a Shawn Mendes or someone of that sort of ilk to perform on the Saturday evening. So that gives you an overview of the whole 3 days. I'm sure there's tons of questions that people have got, which we'll be happy to answer. The idea, again, just to reiterate to everyone listening, the idea is that we're extending this from just being 1 day into being 3 days. We're hoping that this can create a real festival feeling around this. And again, we've signed a contract with Formula E for 5 years, and that's going to be the first 5 years. And then we hope that this stays on the calendar for many, many more years after that. We really want this to be seen within Vancouver as an event that people look forward to every year. much as they do in a lot of the cities that have Formula One Grand Prix. You know, they're seen as the kickoff to the summer or the end of the summer, or people just know that on a certain weekend of the year, that's when this event comes to town. And that's what we want to be. We want to make sure that Vancouver is really put on the map, that Vancouver sits happily alongside New York, Paris, Rome, Berlin, and London as one of these cities that hosts Formula E. Not only that, we want this to be the best Formula E event. So there's an overview of all that. I'm going to pass over to Phil now. He's going to go into a lot more detail of, sorry, Anne needs to add something.
Sorry, I want to add something. First of all, Formula E is very inclusive, very much about inclusivity, diversity, which is why getting close, when all the fans get to flood the track and they get to come right up to the podium, that's never done. It's not done in IndyCar. It's certainly not done in Formula One. It's never done in any other racing series. Formula E is the only series that does that, where the fans are right next to the podium. And when the top three guys come up on the podium, they do high fives with all the fans that are right there. So it's kind of neat. And the fact that there's no noise, you bring the kids, there's no noise for their ears. And also, I want to add, because I forgot to say it earlier, we're planning on launching September 15 in Vancouver, COVID permitting, of course, and we're hoping to have a lot of people attend the launch. So, but we'll keep all of you informed on the progress. But that's the aim, September 15, and that's when the tickets go on sale. And that's when we hope to announce our performers, maybe a few sponsors. So stay tuned. All right, Phil, it's your turn.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Matt. You went into much more detail than I expected, but that's normal, right? We're not in the same room. So I will go back and really detail the event in the specific areas, so most of you can understand. Explain it yourself to your own partners and your own stakeholders as much as possible. They're just on a question that has been asked by James about the business conference attendance. We'll explain, but again, we're looking at around 3,000 people for the first year and expand as we grow, because we want to make sure the experience is quite unique for the first year, and hopefully by year 25 will be 12,000 to that business conference, and it will be the Davos of America, if you want. So basically, I'm going to go back on the racing side and then go down to the conference and the music and explain a bit who's going to attend and some specific knowledge that might be of interest. So Formula E is 12 teams, 24 drivers. It's the series with the most manufacturers right now. They have around, if I'm not mistaken, 8 different manufacturers that are involved, such as, Mercedes, Nissan, and other big manufacturers that are all investing quite heavily in electrification of transport. For 2022, a big scoop for everybody here. There is going to be a Canadian team, but that I cannot give any more details. So we will be racing, as Matthew said, alongside cities such as London, Rome, Hong Kong. Of course, COVID has played with the schedule a bit, but they're all coming back to make sure that they have their stand in this FIA calendar. Of course, the difference between Formula E and Indy, once again, and other racing events, is that the technology and the mindset is really meant to be applied on the city side, and meant to increase the electrification of transport and the sustainability aspect of it. Just as an example, when you're talking about tire management, a Formula One event, you would have 4 40-foot containers of tires, and the teams would have quite an extensive amount of them per weekend. And a Formula E team only has 2 sets to play with. So the tires are made for all weather, they're made to perform. And the aspect is really, how can we make sure that all we see in racing can be applied to the street, and that you're not racing with impossible tires to purchase. Of course, Matthew said it, it's a single day. Formula E is the first international sports to be certified net zero by the UN. Of course, being certified net zero by the UN does mean that there is a carbon footprint, but it's compensated. Of course, the goal is to achieve this net zero or even a positive outcome at one point. Just a second. So who will attend? There's a bigger family vibe to it than other racing. As you can see, these are the average attendance over here. So normally these tickets will be purchased by people around 40 to 50 years old with a family, and they will bring along kids and everything. This is why all the attendance, as you can see, is really skewed toward the lower end of the spectrum, if you want. A lot of female that will be attending the event compared to other series for sure. Of course, sustainability is in the mind of Formula E fans. There is a core of racing fans that will come for the race itself, and hopefully we'll educate them on the impacts and how we can increase sustainability in our lives. For sure, Vancouver again is a good city for this. You have both aspects with a racing family that was there for since 2004 and prior, that are probably there wondering when they can get their hands on tickets. And there's this other aspect of people that want to get educated. From what I've seen in other events, they really find that it looks like an expo, if you want, type feel, where there's a lot of learning throughout the site. So it is a growing sport. It is a new sport. So basically, there's a 14% year-on-year yield. For sure, the COVID did impact the growth, but right now everybody is heavily investing in sustainability, and we will see this trend carry on. So you're looking at about 32 million people on TV watching the race from around the world in 150 different countries. So in Canada, this is accessible via TSN and TVA Sports for the French subscribers, and in the US on CBS Sports, which has a big following. The type of partners, type of global sponsors that are involved with Formula E and that will be attending the event, and they will be hosting their local partners, so their Canadian partners, companies like ABB, who are a Swiss company highly involved in electrification of transport. They will bring people from the US. They will bring people from Toronto, Montreal to attend the event. Certainly to show off their investment, but as well to show off the technology and how it's how it's going to look like 5 years down the line for most of us. Julius Baer is a big partner in making this happen in terms of finance, and of course they carry their own high-end profiles around the different races. Michelin Tires has been there for many years, although there's another tire company that will come in the near future, but for next year they're still going to be there. Again, mindset is all about sustainability and leveraging the events around the site, and possibly maybe even in your hotels to do some conferences themselves or on a private matter. Of course, these are all the global partners. We will have our own local activations and local partners, and we're looking with different companies in the area to activate. But nonetheless, companies like Hugo Boss might want to bring some of their key personnel or brand ambassadors, such as and Anne. What's the name of the brand ambassador? I completely forgot.
You're gonna have to give me some sound. James Hinchcliffe. He's a well-known. He's a star in IndyCar.
Hugo Boss.
Oh, yeah, Jason Priestley. And I'm told that he's from Vancouver. I thought he was from Toronto all this time. So yeah, Jason Priestley, the actor, who used to be one of our drivers on the IndyCar side,
and Chris
is very much interested in showing up at our event and doing the celebrity race. So there's your scoop. We haven't announced that yet, so I don't know if I should have said something.
All right. So there it is. Again, as Matthew described a bit earlier, it's a much bigger event than just a race. So we do have the 2 days of business conference where key speakers like the Al Gores of this world and Martin Eberhard, who founded Tesla. And other big key speakers will be there around with other people of impact in the sustainability world. The idea was to give the event a leverage to have corporate partners and corporate partnerships built on not just sending your people to a racetrack, but actually learning about positioning yourself and framing a strategy to build on AI and technology and sustainability, because it's all going to be a part of our futures if we want it or not. So again, we will have different guest speakers. We will activate the track as the business conference. It's called a creative business conference because it has a very Cirque du Soleil touch, if you want, where there's some crazy aspects of being flown on a conference table 12 feet in the air to discuss certain things, and etc. Basically, who we're looking at a big portion of corporate sponsors that are linked to these global sponsors, but as well as Canadian national companies. Of course, being in Vancouver, small and medium businesses will be a very big push, and startups as well, which they will be a part of it in terms of a program that we have for the business conference and the event. If you want this, again, the music event, it's really to make sure that people come together around this. We will have on site some sort of a showcasing for arts and culture, inviting First Nations to maybe do some sculptures to try to represent the challenges that we have, and other artists of the local aspect, and have the crowd vote for it. So over 2 nights, 2 different crowds, and to make sure that we attract people to fit in the culture. So there is, of course, a big legacy aspect to the event. As discussed with the city councillors, we're looking to invest after each event in terms of infrastructure for EV. This is the biggest challenge right now, is first of all, clear the range anxiety around electrification of transport, which comes with EV charging stations, but as well with education. It's a very different mindset because you can actually refuel from home, which is rarely possible with a combustion engine. Anyways, that being said, we will invest with the city, that we're working on it to understand where exactly on a year-to-year basis, but the idea would be to invest in parks, schools, and other public areas that we could have a benefit to the city. Of course, part of our investment in the event and the FIA and everything that is going on right now is inclusivity. For sure, there's a big part of it where we must have some very important conversation with the Parks Commission to see how to have underprivileged children a part of the event. Of course, the ticketing itself will be quite accessible. The pricing details will be offered later in September, but nonetheless, there's still some people that can't attend the event, and we'll make sure that they can. Of course, women in motorsports, it's part of the DNA of Formula E and of the FIA right now. So we will have Susie Wolf, a very well-known person in motorsports. Her husband manages Mercedes, and she is actually on another team. So it will be fun. We should have them both on the same stage, actually. Education, of course, being a part of the Science Center, we will be making sure that we leave behind some tools for them to have some interest in electric racing, and as well working with local universities. Right now, we're in discussion with BCIT to have some sort of integration with them in many different facets of the event. So you must have seen this number go around. So $83 million in economic value, I should say. So tourism spending from pre-COVID trials, we used to have 31% of domestic tourism and 17% of international. Now, of course, I don't have, and I will consider grabbing more details about this, but this for 2022 should be still pretty much back to normal. We're looking at a lot of people on the domestic side coming in from Edmonton and Calgary for the racing, and for the business part, a lot from Toronto and Montreal. In terms of international partners, so each of the 12 teams have around 100 people that they bring along the races. These goes from, you know, partnership activations to engineers to and all of the needed resources to run 2 cars for the weekend. And as well, we have Formula E themselves. So OSS is the promoter. Formula E is kind of the NHL, if you want, and they will come with the event. So they will have, you know, around, I think, 4,000 rooms themselves for people that will be up at the in Vancouver for about 3 weeks prior to the event, and a whole lot of people arriving about a week out in terms of planning and everything. In terms of organizer spending, we do have a lot of suppliers to get in touch with, from audio visuals down to communications, going from the fencing, staffing, machinery, you name it, we need it. For sure, there is a certain channel to discuss, and we'll have that a bit later. Media coverage, so this will be viewed in 150 different countries. I put 67%. There must be another. It must have been social media or something like that. But basically, this race will be seen around the world, so we want to make sure that everything is nice, up and tidy for July 2nd. So in terms of production and delivery of the event, you can contact myself at psmirnov@ossgroup.org. As I said, we will need a whole lot of different people to be helping us achieve this feat. I will be much more in a position to give more details in around October, November, when it comes to tenders on the different aspects, because we still have some details to figure out with the city, and we need to hire some people around us in Vancouver as well. So yes, we do need some permanent staff that then those jobs will come and be posted quite soon on the web, our own website, and on LinkedIn and other feed. In terms of volunteering, on September 15, when we launch, we will have an area in our web and on our app platforms to register. We will need some different track volunteers, some other volunteers, but mostly track, which is about, and I wish my sporting director won't kill me for saying that, I think 400 to 800 different people in volunteering for the event. In terms of hotels, for sure, there's different areas to leverage the event. I think Destination Vancouver has all the information and have been given as a contact to the different teams and to Formula E to go through and make sure that they understand what type of rooms they need for what type of partners and all of that. Ourselves, OSS, we will need rooms for, of course, a few key operations, but namely speakers, performers, and tons of VIPs as well. I think Anne has been in discussion with Destination Vancouver as well on that. When it comes to restaurants and different attractions and members that are here, we will have a program on bracelet, and that will be linked to our app through Connect and Go. So the idea that was discussed over the last month and a half was to make sure that the city could benefit from the event as much as possible. So yes, the idea is to get people on site, but it's to get people in the city and to accelerate the recovery for all the restaurants and hotels. So what we're working on is creating partnerships with the people that want to, and creating a point system for our clients that will have the bracelet to go into these different restaurants or attractions, scan themselves, and maybe get some freebies at the event and or discount for the following year, and to make sure that they go around the site, because it will be a new site and we want people to explore it. That being said, I think I pretty much finished what I wanted to say, and we should open up for Q&A.
Thanks, Philip. It looks like a lot of the questions, and we've had quite a few of them, have been answered in the window itself. Contact for partnership opportunities, and will you be rolling out a media kit at all?
Yes, partnership. It's on the website on Canadian eFest. So it's sales@canadianefest.com, or as well, if you want a direct link, you can contact Eric, he has a Budapest, Hungary last name. I'm very sorry, Hungarian. Eric the Pocomandi at ossgroup.org. And of course, we will give this presentation to Destination Vancouver. So if people want to go around and look at it again, no problem.
Yes, and a reminder that we will be, this webinar is being recorded, and we'll be posting this on our website later. There are no other questions that have populated into the window. Do either of the other panelists have anything else that they'd like to add?
Yeah, apologies. I was answering the questions while Phil was talking, but maybe Phil, I don't know if you can go back and see the answered questions, because there are some in there that you could maybe touch on. So there's one about the design of the track.
So Jennifer just asked about the production partners. When most likely we want to get all our production partners in line from October to January, to have February, March, April to finalize the planning portion, and then a communication portion for the rest.
And it looks like we have some more questions pertaining to RFPs and when you expect those to come out. I mean, this particular question is for AV and production, but I suspect that there will be other RFPs that'll be coming down the pipeline for restaurants and attractions and other things. Do you have a timeline for the rollout of those particulars?
Yeah, well, it's this, sadly, it's going to sound very repetitive, but it's the same answer. So October to February, we will be getting all the RFPs out. Right now, we're finalizing the site and finalizing all the details with the city. We just want to make sure that what we communicate is right, and concentrate on the launch for now.
Great.
I'll just go back and read the questions that Matthew answered to see if he if I could help a bit more. Yeah, in terms of shuttles, that's a very good question. It will depend on Matthew answered yes. I would say no. But that's again, that's another debate that we always have. For sure, the different partners will align their own stuff. We will have probably an area where we could have some electric shuttles for VIPs, but that we all have to work.
Philip, as you know, there's some construction that's scheduled to happen in the area where the racetrack is currently proposed. Do you have insight as to where you may need to relocate and adjust? It was mentioned before that the racetrack is easy enough to reconfigure, but with things like the viaducts and whatnot and other construction coming, do you foresee a need to shift location entirely to another part of the city?
So right now we're working with the city for the first 3 years to assure the same and a viable position. And after that, we are in discussion with the different partners as well in the area and the city to see how we can adapt. For sure, we'll find a solution.
That's great. And we don't have any other questions. As it relates to the hotels, I saw that you had mentioned Destination Vancouver as the point of contact. You can direct questions in that regard to Michael Drake, who's our Director of Sales, Meetings and Conventions, Canada International. He's also spearheading the Festival and Events program. So please feel free to reach out to him. Or you can also direct questions to myself. lpavan@destinationvancouver.com, and I can redirect questions as needed. Is there anything further that you guys wanted to add to this before we close out the session?
I think we've pretty well covered it all. And again, I think you guys all have my email address. If there's any questions or if you guys need any other information, please feel free to reach out. It's Aroy, A-R-O-Y, at ossgroup.org.
I would just like to add, there's a good question there by Brian, who says reduce single-use items. So as part of the Formula E, if you want umbrella and being followed closely by the UN, we won't have any plastic use on site or single plastic use.
Very good. Thank you again for joining us today, everyone. We hope you found this webinar useful. We'll share this presentation online so you can review at a later date. And we'll also be sending out a post-webinar evaluation. Your feedback is extremely important to us, so please take a few moments to complete the survey when it arrives in your inbox. Finally, again, please reach out to either me or Michael should you have any further questions about today's presentation. Have a great day, and until next time, goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.